I'd like to do a little bit of work now on electron configurations, and I'd like to show you how this correlates to the quantum number sets and allowed values we talked about earlier. Now you'll remember that we had a certain code going for the L values, and L can equal 0, 1, 2 or 3, and those correspond to S, P, and D and F subshells respectively. And that we also know that for certain values of N we can only have certain values of L, and the allowed values for L would go from 0 up to n minus 1. Thus, if n equals 1, the only possible value for L is 0, which means we can have 1 S, and that's all we can have for 1. Now, if n equals 2, then we can have values of 0 and 1 for L, which means we can have 2S and we can have 2P. If n equals 3, then we can have values of L 0, 1, or 2, so we can have a 3S, 3P, and then 3D. And then for n equals 4, we can have S, P, D, or F values, and we can have 4S, 4P, 4D, and 4F. Now for the same reason, we can see that the S's will start at 1, we can see the P's will start at 2, the D's will start at 3, and the F's will start at 4, and all of this is predicted by the allowed values we're allowed to have for L and for certain values of N. Now the other thing we can predict is how big the shells are going to be. So each of these boxes is one electron, so you can see that there's going to be 2 electrons in an orbital, so each of these rows represents an orbital. So this would be 1 orbital here, 2 electrons. This would be 10 electrons, which would be 5 orbitals. This would be 6 electrons, which would be 3, and this would be 14 electrons, which would be 7 orbitals. Now the orbitals or orbital numbers are decided by m sub L, which is in turn decided by the L value that we're talking about. So if L equals 0, the value of m sub L can only be 0, which means that we can only have 1 orbital, and that's what we get for the S's. Now if we go up to something like 7, the F's, then L equals 3, and we're going to have 7 orbitals there, because the values for m sub L can go from negative L to plus L, which is negative 3, to plus 3, which is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, which would be a total of 7 orbitals. And since each orbital has 2 electrons, that means there's going to be a total of 14 electrons. So that's what we're going to see for the F block. So now you can see how all of the the N values, the L sub values, and the M sub L values all correlate to what we see on the periodic chart.